do want to give an introduction. I know that
Okay.
I know that the right thing to say is you don't need an introduction, and in this case, it's 100% accurate. Everybody that is on this, and we're going to obviously publish this to tens of thousands and more people over the next few weeks. But Robert Greene is someone that obviously is a repeat offender to John Hart. You guys all know him. You guys know exactly who he is and what he's all about. He's written books like the 48 Laws of Power, Mastery, the 50th Law, The Art of Seduction, 33 Strategies of War, The Laws of Human Nature. And his latest book, which this is what today is all about, is The Daily Laws. The only thing that you haven't done yet, and I'm trying to figure out how to get you on, is making it on the cover of People's Magazine, the sexiest man alive, the sexiest man alive. because I will tell you, Robert, you're something else, man. You are just something else.
Well, thank you, Harout. I think you're gonna have to wait a long time for that to happen.
Not if I have anything to do with it. Not if I have anything
all
to
right,
do with it.
all right, all right.
It's all about power. It's all about mastery. And look, I think this year, 2021. I don't know if you know who he is, but Paul Rudd made 2021's People's Sexiest Man Alive. So if Paul Rudd can make it, I think Robert Greene is a shoo-in.
Well, he's probably, I'm sure he's a lot sexier than I am.
Well, the last
thank
time,
you. No one has ever said that that's where I should be. So you're the first person to express that.
There you go.
So thank you, Harout.
I'm glad I'm the first with something.
Okay.
So for those of you guys who are on, welcome. We are going to give everyone, and I know there's questions already started, but everyone the opportunity to ask questions. So Robert, just so you know, the way we're handling today, we're inviting a few people to this session. So we're live. We're going to get about between 150 to 225 people at any point to come on, and then they'll be able to, and if obviously with your permission, they'll be able to ask questions at the end.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but for now, I've got a whole boatload of things that I want to talk about. But it's just sort of like your book. I'm gonna go off on many different tangents. But first things first, I want to know how's your health? The last time you and I met, you were 6 months into recovery. How's it going?
It's going kind of a mix. On the one hand, I'm definitely getting better. There are things that I can do. I can walk fairly normally, and just generally, I have more control over the left side of my body, but it's going so slowly. Mm-hmm. It's not like when you go to the gym and you exercise for a month and then you feel the incredible benefits and you're making progress.
Yeah.
I liken this to, you take one step forward and then you take a half step back, and then it's really slow. It's back and forth. So you have to be incredibly patient and patient with yourself and not get too frustrated, which I deal with every day.
Yeah. So this is the first time you and I met, and we met on stage in La Cañada, you were doing well, but I saw you struggling. I've seen you recently, and I'm happy to see that you've improved over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I was actually reviewing The Laws of Human Nature, and Milton Erickson came to mind. When thinking about you, and his struggles and what you wrote, in I think it was in chapter 2 or chapter 3 of the book. But Milton Erickson came to mind when thinking about your recovery.
Well, he had it a lot worse than I did. And sometimes it's good to see that there are people who have it a lot worse than you. Yeah. I know people who had much worse strokes, obviously people dealing with COVID. And Milton Erickson had polio, and he was completely paralyzed. So I need to be grateful for the fact that I'm only lost part of my mobility.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share a story with you, okay? Last time I didn't get a chance to, but I want to just, last time I was very nervous because meeting you for the first time, it was something that it was a long time dream of mine. I couldn't even believe I was talking to you. I couldn't even believe I was on stage with you. But you don't know this, but you have a lot to do with my personal, and I'm sure a lot of people tell you this, but you have a lot to do with my personal growth and where I am in my life. Many years ago, when you published this beautiful book, someone came to me and gave me this in the worst time of my life. A couple of weeks after I was diagnosed with a terminal illness, somebody, so somebody came to me and gave me this book, right? And it was the first time I had ever heard of you. I had never heard of you. I wasn't someone who read much or would read much. I was young. I was 27, 28 years old, just starting out in my career. And someone gave me this book and signed it, right? And that person was my mom. And she signed it and she said, and she said, I believe in your power. And I believe that you're going to make it through this, right? It was right after I was diagnosed, and doctors told me 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more. And so I started reading your book, and all I could imagine is how I'm going to be able to apply the principles that you had set forth in the book in my life, right? And I felt like this, and I don't want to say this, for lack of a better term, this power came over me where it just something happened, and I said, this is the way I'm gonna build one day when I'm out of here. And so I just wanted to say thank you right off the bat, because you've had you've been incredibly inspirational in my life. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. That's an amazing story, Harout. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, the principles that you taught me, Robert, I'm very, very proud of. And today, most of the questions I've geared here is to help me and obviously the viewers and everybody else is going to watch this to conquer life, to conquer, more importantly, 2022. I want everyone to have an explosive year. And I think I'm hoping that my interview with you is going to be one of the reasons why. I want to learn from you, and I want our listeners here, our viewers here, to actually learn a lot from you. In my opinion, you are the definition of power. You are the authority in the space. There's a lot of imposters, a lot of fakers. But does it bother you? Does it bother you that there's a lot of people that are trying to be powerful in today's day and age of social media, but faking it through their way?
You know, if you paid attention to everything that's going on in the world right now, you'd get very depressed, you know, and I make it a law. It is one of the laws of power to kind of ignore things that aren't going to help me in the long run. So I just mostly try and focus on the positive. Mm-hmm. You know, what happens in social media is people are able to kind of present a front that isn't who they really are. So there's a lot of con artistry going on in our culture. It's getting worse and worse. But I don't let it affect me, because it's always been this case throughout history that an enlightened minority, it doesn't have to be, it can be 20, 30, 40% of the population. They're the ones who make a difference, you know, and they're the ones with the real ideas and the real power. And that's what I like to try and focus on.
Absolutely. Define power to me. What does power mean to you?
Well, a lot of people have this idea that power is this sort of thing that has to do with governments and politics and international diplomacy, that it's presidents and CEOs. And I have a totally different concept of it. I bring it down to the personal, individual level in your daily life. And the way I like to explain it is that if you ever have the feeling in your life that you have no control, no influence over your children, over your spouse, over your colleagues, over your boss, that you can't sell your ideas, that you can't reach the career goals.
Robert, you've been muted. Just a quick second. I think I don't know if you hit a button or you've been muted. Let me see here. Okay, I'm going to ask you to unmute and then just click on. Gotta love technology in this day and age. All right, so let me ask you to unmute. Do you see anything coming up on your screen? Okay, hold on. Yeah, there you go.
All right,
there
now I'm unmuted.
You're back.
It kept saying that the host is not allowing you to speak to unmute. So
yeah, I don't know why.
Okay.
Damn the host. I'm sorry. Go on. Continue. So your power. You were defining power.
Yeah. So what I was saying is the idea that you have no influence or any kind of control over the people around you, over your career, over events going on in the world is the worst feeling a human being can have, right? And so power is this sense in your day-to-day affairs that you can influence, you can direct more or less your children if they're going in the wrong direction. You can more or less get your spouse or somebody, a friend, to stop their irritating, annoying behavior. People will listen to you. You have a degree of power or control in your workplace. You're able to navigate these difficult social environments that we all live in without offending people. You play the perfect courtier, as I say, in the 48 laws of power. You know how to charm and be personable when you need to. You also know how to play the hard game, the hardball game. And these skills together that I describe in all of my books will give you a degree of control. There's no such thing as perfect control. Life comes at you with things that you don't expect. I did not expect or ask for a stroke, and here it is, and I have to deal with it. You had terminal illness. These things happen. All kinds of things happen. There's a pandemic. Your job or your career is in jeopardy. You can't control that, but you can control how you react to them. You can control your level of depression. You can control your degree of confidence. You can control how your attitude towards life. And that's basically what I think is power.
And I love that you said you can control how you react to things, because I say this to everybody that wants to listen. It's practice patience, right? You're not going to be able to control the person that's yelling and screaming at you, but you can control taking a walk before you answer. You can't control that email that you're going to get or that client that's going to ask you to give them a discount, but you can control how you're going to react to that request. So absolutely. I know that, and I don't want to, the last thing I want to talk about is seduction right now and mind games, because I do want to focus on mastery and your new book. But what is going to, in regards to power, when do you ever let someone else, the person that you're dealing with, borrow it? When you're negotiating with someone, obviously you're trying to, it's a matter of having both sides win. But if you want to constantly stay in control of yourself, do you ever let the person in front of you borrow the power?
Well, what do you mean exactly by borrow the power? Do you mean give in to them, cede ground to them?
Give in to them, but I want them to know that they're in control and they have the power, because but I want them to also know that I've given it to them. I want them to feel superior so I can kind of get what I want to get.
Well, that's a very, very powerful negotiating tactic. And it is one of the laws of power, which has always appeared dumber than your mark. Let other people feel like they're superior to you, usually in intelligence, because that's the most important thing. That's the self-esteem issue that's most sensitive for all of us. Nobody likes to feel like they're stupid or irrational or that they don't understand things. So this is the main lesson, Harout. When you're dealing with people in a negotiating situation, or you're trying to sell them on something, an idea or whatever, the people you're dealing with are naturally resistant and defensive to you, right? In the world today, everything is so competitive and so harsh that all of us have learned to put up these walls, because so many people are trying to sell us things, etc. etc. So we tend to not really listen. So you have to understand that when you're dealing with someone, they're initially defensive and resistant to your idea. So you need to relax them. You need to give them a kind of a sip of a martini that's not really a martini, but that kind of loosens them up, makes them feel comfortable, kind of gets rid of all that natural defensiveness, and making them feel like they're superior to you, that they're actually more powerful than you, that they're smarter than you is an incredibly potent tactic. But the main thing you want to do is understand their mindset and their world and get into that first and try to find a way to comfort them, that you're not challenging their sense of who they are. You're not making them feel insecure in any way. And that is law number one in any kind of negotiating situation. Because if you begin it by making someone feel challenged or defensive, they kind of get like this, right? And you have no room to maneuver them at all. They're just going to stay put wherever they are. So the main thing in what you're talking about is ability to get people to calm down and relax and feel comfortable around you. And that gives you room to maneuver them in any direction you want.
Yeah, one thing that you're speaking to a lot of real estate professionals, and as real estate professionals, we're constantly negotiating. It's either with our clients, with vendors, with each other. We're constantly in negotiations. And one thing that I see that is not done very well is how to get the other person to understand that you're not looking to win. You're not looking for the win all the time. What you're looking to do is looking for the best outcome and the best for both sides, because you may win today. And this is one thing that I've learned from you, is that you may win today, but you're going to have to deal with that person another day, next week, next month, next year. They're gonna come up again. And you don't want to have that person feel that now they have this vendetta, right? And they want to come back at you for it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are really bad at this. Really, really aggressive people who think that they're so smart and so in control. Mm-hmm. Yes, they're able to push people around. Yes, they're able to kind of get what they want, right? But they mistake aggression for power, and it's very different because you want to play for the long game. Your thing isn't like, tomorrow I want to push them to a position where I get more money out of them, et cetera, because a week later, they're going to be resentful and bitter. And if you have to deal with them again, it's going to be a lot worse, right? So you want to play the long game. You want to be patient. You want to have somebody feel like you can return to them and negotiate with them time and again, that you're not out to cheat them, that you respect them in some way. And so don't think that the kind of people who push people around, who always control things and tell them exactly, get things on their terms, that they're the ones who have power. Because in the end, and I've been around people like that. I do a lot of consulting for very powerful business people. Mm-hmm. And very powerful business people are used to getting their way in everything. And what they end up dealing with, I was on the board of directors of a publicly traded company, so I saw this firsthand. What you deal with is months later, you've got a bunch of people who are resentful, who are bitter, who feel like they've been cut off from the process. They're not engaged in the business, and they're going to get back at you. They're going to not work so hard. They're going to do things to sabotage you in the end. So you have to play for the long game. In the 48 Laws of Power, I say, win the hearts and minds of people. You want as wide a base of power as possible. So if the 400 people employed by John Hart, I don't know how many there are probably millions or whatever. If 80% of them are happy and like working for you and think that they're satisfied, then the other 20% are really easy to control and manage, because you've created an overall spirit, an esprit de corps, where people feel that they belong to this company and they will do a lot of the policing for you. But if you do if it's more like only 30% of the people are on your side, the moment a problem comes up or a hitch in anything, people are going to pile on you. They're not going to cooperate with you. You're going to pay a price for that.
It's really funny. I feel like we're about to start a therapy session in front of a couple hundred people because I've got a lot on my mind, especially after a year like this. But I'm gonna try and save my personal problems for another time. Your book, it does a masterful job of giving us daily doses of brilliance. And I've heard you say that in order for you to write it, you have to feel it, right? I've heard you say it. I've either heard you say it or you've written it somewhere. I've listened to you talk about the way when you write, because you got to feel it, right? What were you trying to accomplish with giving us this book? Is it perfect timing that it's the beginning of the year? It's 2022. In my opinion, it's a recovery year. People are tired. People are just, I see it in people's faces, Robert. It's incredible how I feel like they've been milked, right? And they don't have anything left in them. Was that what you were trying to accomplish with this book by writing this book?
Well, I couldn't foresee everything that was going to happen in the year 2021. I began working on this in 2020. Mm-hmm. When the pandemic was just kind of starting out in a way. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't able to foresee all the things happening. But the main point was, for me, is that of all the books I've written, there have been 6 books. Mm-hmm. I thought of what kind of connects it all? Is there one idea that I'm trying to promote here for the reader? And the idea that I came up with, to me, the source of power, the greatest thing you can learn in life is a degree of self-detachment. And what I mean by that is you're able to look at yourself from a distance. I make this almost visible. So if I can look at myself from here, that's pretty good. From here, that's great. From over there, really good, fantastic. Mm-hmm. What that means is you're not so wrapped up in the moment. You're not so wrapped up in your ego. You can look at yourself with a degree of distance and say, these are my flaws. These are my strengths. These are why I'm not connecting to people. This is why when I try and sell something, people aren't responding to me. You're able to look at yourself and be realistic. And at the same time, you're able to look at other people and not get caught up in their emotional drama and analyze them for who they are. You have distance from them as well, a little bit, to see them as they actually are, not as you imagine them or fantasize about them. You're able to look at your career and the world at large and analyze that and not be so wrapped up in all the emotion and turmoil of the moment. That is the single greatest power anybody can have. And that's what I want my readers to be able to learn to have it. But it's not easy. It's easy for me to say that. I've been working on this my whole life and maybe I've achieved it. I know it's not easy. And the way to get there is through your daily practice, through your habits, where you learn to think, well, earlier today, I had a conversation. It didn't go so well. It didn't go as I planned. What happened? What did I do that I could have done differently? If you're able to practice that today, tomorrow, the next day, it becomes a habit. So the Daily Laws is a book that's going to bring you this habit. A lot of habits are negative. A lot of habits are addictions, are procrastinations, etc. But there are powerful habits. Powerful habits are discipline. Powerful habits are patience. And the most powerful habit of all is the ability to analyze yourself and others with a degree of distance. And that's why I wrote the book. And so what happens in a pandemic and what we've gone through is we're so emotionally caught up in what's going on right in front of our face that we have no distance. We imagine that a year from now, it's going to be the same as it is now. We don't realize that we're entering into a totally new environment in 2022, where there's going to be new opportunities that nobody saw before. There's going to be new opportunities and rooms for growth, et cetera. And so don't get so caught up in all of the immediate traumas and turmoil that we've been through, and have some detachment and say, this is just a small little moment we're going through, and it's going to change over the course of the following months. Have faith in that.
What's really funny, and we've said this a few times, not only in our conversation, but through the months and over the last couple of years. And we've gone through this pandemic, and we've gone through over 5 million people dying, hundreds of millions of people getting sick. But Robert, we're still not getting it. We're still not understanding that life is here today, gone tomorrow. And I know that this is why I'm very excited about reading your next book. But we're not, and you gave us a little bit of it in December in the Daily Laws, when you talk about stupidity and the ultimate stupidity, right? And you and I share very similar frustrations, because I'm my job, and I've got a much smaller audience than obviously you do, but my job is to get my 500 people in my tribe to really understand that this thing is not forever, and we still are constantly complain and not take advantage of the opportunities that we've been given. I really thought over the last couple few months that we were going to learn from mistakes and all the things that we've gone through over the last 2 years, and understand what life's journey is supposed to look like, right? And you've talked about this in all of your books, right? Your life's work, your life's task, what is that you're supposed to do. And until today, I struggle with it. Until today, I just can't get people to understand that this is not going to last forever. And just like you and your life was going to be over in about 30 minutes if your girlfriend wasn't there in your car with you, anybody else can go through the same type of turmoil, right? But they're not getting it. And it's very difficult for me to get people to understand it. So maybe you can give us some insight on how to live a life of purpose and making sure that every single minute you are taking advantage.
Well, we talked about it earlier, where you can't control these things. You can't control the pandemic, but you can control how you react to them. So personally, I have a stroke in which beforehand I had this pretty nice life. I'd swim every other day. I'd go biking up in the hills here in Los Feliz. I would do I'd take hikes, and suddenly it's all taken away from me. I can't type or do anything. How do I find lessons from that? How do I find some kind of good that I can extract from what seems to be a very horrible set of circumstances? Well, I've learned to be incredibly patient with myself. I'm somebody who's never been patient. I'm so critical of myself. It's very difficult. It's probably what led to my stroke. I've learned to calm down. I've learned to be patient. I've learned to not get so frustrated. I learned that time will eventually heal everything. That is the attitude that gives me power in this moment, right? Instead of getting all upset and whining, why me? Why did this happen to me? Oh God, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to live in the past. I want to have power and control through my attitude. So no matter what life gives you, you have to look at things that way. It's the way you see things that changes them from a negative to a positive. So a pandemic, as long as you haven't gotten COVID and you're hospitalized and dying, et cetera, it's taught you some very important things. We see people all around this country, for instance, having a reckoning with their own career. They're saying, I don't really like this job. I don't really like where my life is going. This career isn't my life's task. It doesn't mean anything to me. So now you have the time and the distance to be able to look at yourself and say, this is really what I want from life, right? So there are things that you can learn from this moment. It's how you approach it. So if you only focus on the negative and how that impacts you, that's going to make you more self-absorbed. It's going to make you miserable. It's going to make it harder for you to get out of this moment. If you switch that around and you say, this is actually an opportunity for me, an opportunity to learn about myself, to develop some life skills that I've never had before, and to maybe make a change of direction, it's incredibly powerful. It's liberating. It's maybe the best thing that ever happened to you. You need to make that adjustment to how you look at the world. And in the laws of human nature, I have an incredibly important chapter on that. It's about your attitude towards life and how your attitude towards life you create the circumstances around you by your attitude. If you're negative and whiny, you're going to get those kind of circumstances because you're creating them yourself. But if you're excited and you're looking at everything as an opportunity, you will create all these opportunities around you.
So right at the end, you go deeper into this and you talk about stupidity and you hit it home, right? For me, because I'm seeing a lot of money right now put into, and this is one of the most important parts of the daily laws, in my opinion, where you talk about scientists and more importantly, focused on billionaires in Silicon Valley, right? And I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, but how much money is being spent into defying death or prolonging it. And Robert, when I read that, it was like I just wanted to come to Hollywood and just give you a big giant hug, because if you can just keep that message going and get people to understand that, why would you possibly want to live forever? If you lived forever, that means there's no fear of not becoming the person that you one day want to become, because you have forever to accomplish it. The biggest advantage that we have as human beings, and this is one thing that I loved so much about your message, is that we're going to die. That's one of the biggest advantages that we have as human beings, is the fact that it might be all over tomorrow or a year from now or 10 years from now. So we don't have that much time, and whatever we need to accomplish, we need to accomplish it today. I always ask my guys, what can you accomplish in 6 months that it takes most people to accomplish in 10 years? Well, let's do that. So if there's one thing that I ask from you is to keep that message going, because we don't want to live forever. We want to live for a long time, but we don't want to live forever, because that's one of the biggest disadvantages.
No, we don't. And so it's the fact that life is transient, that things don't last, that make it beautiful, that make it poignant, that make us see things, because we know that they're not going to be here forever, right? And also imagine that you lived 300-400 years and all the people that you knew around you were dying, and here you are completely alone in the world without a friend or a relative or family member. What a horrible nightmare. So, everything depends on our energy in life, how much energy we approach something. If we approach something with 50% of our energy, that's what we're going to end up getting in life, right? We're going to get kind of half results. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if we put in all of it, if we're completely in the moment, I meditate every morning, and I tell myself, I meditate on the present, and I'm going to go all in with every ounce of my body, with every pore in me into this present moment. I'm just going to completely immerse myself. So if you hold nothing back, that's what you're going to end up getting. And I talked in the 33 strategies of war of the death ground strategy. It's one of the most important chapters in any of my books. And what it meant in military terms, it comes from Sun Tzu in The Art of War, that if you put an army with its back against a mountain or its back against the ocean, it means it has to either win this battle or it will die, because there's no place to retreat, right? Yep. So when you put an army in that position, what do you see? They fight with double, with triple the energy, the intensity, because it's either win or die. It's either get rich or die trying, as 50 Cent put it, right? So that's what calls up the energy. So the fact that you could die tomorrow or in a week should give you some kind of desperation, some sense of urgency. I don't want to die without ever having accomplished any of my goals, my dreams in life, without leaving my family in a good position, without leaving some kind of legacy. So I better hurry up and get things done, right? And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But what the stupidity that you're talking about is that people go around imagining that they're going to live forever, that there is no more, that only old people die. Mm-hmm. Only when I'm in my 80s or 90s will I face it. But we've seen with the pandemic, you can die in your 30s. I'm having friends in their 50s who are dying left, right, and center. I don't know what's going on. A lot of it's cancer or something. But you could die tomorrow. So stop fooling yourself and imagining that you have all this time. You don't have this time. And when you feel like your back is against that mountain, and it's either make this sale, write this book, direct this movie, or I'm done, you will find the energy to get what you need to get done.
This is, you've given me so many questions to ask you because I can see it in my guys' faces, because death ground strategy is something that I personally have written a lot about. Sun Tzu is someone that I've studied. The Art of War is something, because of you, obviously, I talk a lot about death ground strategy. I've actually written papers on death ground strategy, sent it to our guys, and it's incredible. And the guys who have been with the company for a while know. I put it on their desks. I've emailed it to them. I love death ground strategy, because I do believe that we come out of our shell when we know we have no other options, right? And we don't know what we're capable of accomplishing until someone just puts our backs behind a wall. And so death ground strategy is something that I have been really trying to get everyone else to understand. And I'm hoping that one thing that our guys are going to get from today is, come January 2nd, that's the mindset, because it's extremely important to have the proper mindset going into the year, is to take a death ground strategy type of mindset. But even if, Robert, going back to mortality and going back to how the scientists in Silicon Valley is putting so much money into dodging death, let's call it, we are not going to understand the meaning of life if we know that it's here forever. And that's one thing that I want everyone to get from your message here, is that even if you're not gonna die from cancer or COVID or anything else, you shouldn't want to live forever, because there's no meaning to living forever. And I think that's what I got from the last part of your book. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
I wanna go into a little bit about your daily laws again, okay? Because I know because I want everyone to pick this up. We're going to be gifting your book to everyone in attendance today, and you guys all know this. And I'll give details. I'll give details at the end on how to actually get the book. But how would you want, and I know you briefly touched on this, but going into the year, because everybody at John Hart already has their business plans set. We have a software we all enter our business plans in, and most, if not all of us, already have our business plans set. But one thing I've noticed in my years in business is business plans they're similar to, especially at the beginning of the year, they're similar to New Year's resolutions, right? You write it out, you take an oath, but you rarely follow through. I think that business plans coupled with the daily laws in your book is a very, very good way to handle each and every single day in the coming year. Any other tips, anything else that you yourself are doing, any daily practices, habits, and routines? Would you mind going into detail about how you get up, what your routines look like? I know you've chosen about 35 minutes a day for meditation. What does your exercise routine look like? What does your writing routine look like? If you can share some insight with leading with purpose with our guys, please.
Well, I'm very fortunate at my age, and very fortunate when I was younger, to have found my life's task with my writing the books that I have. And it gives me an incredible sense of purpose. It makes me wake up every day with a goal in mind, and knowing the happiness it has brought me ultimately. I want everyone to have that. I don't think anyone should be excluded from that kind of fulfillment in their life. I don't care if you're a truck driver or you're working at Starbucks. You have the potential to realize your life's task. So for me, it's fairly simple. As I said, I lead a very, very boring life, because to be a writer, you have to be a creature of habit. So I get up in the morning, about 6:37, do a little stretching. I sit down and I meditate. I keep increasing my time of meditation. So I feel like I have more control over my mind. It's now at 45 minutes. And that is 45 minutes of complete silence, of not moving, of just simply staring at one thing. It's not easy, I can tell you. And there's some days it doesn't work at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then, I have breakfast, I shower. Although every other morning, I must say, now that I've had my stroke, I can't do my exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a special bicycle called a recumbent bike, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a bike that you basically sit in, and you're kind of low to the ground, you're sitting and you're pedaling.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a very, very expensive one, the best I could get. And we have a lot of very large hills here. I live near Griffith Park.
Mm-hmm.
And every other day I take a massive, massive bike ride. It's my way to get out in nature. It's my way to get rid of all of my anxiety, all of my frustrations. I just, like yesterday, a beautiful day here in LA. It just rained. The smells were fantastic. The sun was out. I was so happy by the time I got home. And that's what I do every other day. I have my breakfast. I take a nap after lunch. Every day I take a nap after lunch. I'm not able to do that today because this is my nap time, I'm afraid to say, but I'm not taking a nap today. And then I get down to writing. And I can only write for about 3 or 4 hours a day at most because it's very grueling. It's very difficult, the nature of my writing. And also everything I do now is handwritten. So I do that. And then at night, like around 7:30 or 8, I do my physical therapy because I have to train myself now to walk better. I can't really walk very well. And I have to strengthen my left arm. And then my wife and I, we have dinner and we watch a movie. I go to bed and then it repeats the next day.
All over again.
It is an incredibly habitual, boring life, but I love it. I wouldn't want any other life. It gives me everything that I want, So habits and rituals are really actually liberating. We think it's better to just be able to do whatever you want. But that's the worst kind of thing because you wake up in the morning going, I can do whatever I want. What do I do? And you're kind of paralyzed because you have so much choice, particularly with technology now. But having yourself directed with a task, with a goal, my goal 2 years from now, my goal a month from now, my goal for just today, gives you energy, gives you drive, and just makes you feel really happy at the end of the day that you met your goals.
You figured out what matters, and you say this many times. Know what matters. So you put it brilliantly multiple times. You said, let the awareness of something, or let the awareness of the shortness of life clarify your daily actions, right? And I think that knowing what matters, knowing exactly what you need to accomplish, is part of the battle, part of showing up, knowing exactly what it is that you need to do. You need to get better. Your meditation practices need to get better. They need to improve. You need to meditate more often. You need to be more focused. You need to do your exercise. You need to take your nap. And I apologize, by the way, for taking up your nap time. It's blame Jackson. Blame Jackson. It's Jackson's fault. He said 2 p.m. I didn't want to.
No, that's all right.
It's Jackson's fault. We'll blame it on Jackson. But know what matters, right? And I think you've actually defined exactly what's important for you. Please.
I just want to add one thing to there. One element that's absolutely critical is to cut out the distractions, to cut out what's not meaningful. And then in the day of social media, it's very difficult. We're all wanting to check out what's going on our Instagram, what's going on in our different social media posts, what's happening in the world. People are barraging us with phone calls, with texts.
Yeah.
And half of life is knowing how to cut that crap out, knowing what really matters, knowing how to focus. Steve Jobs said, the only reason I got to where I am is through my focus. I would get to the office at Apple and I would close the door and I would say, nobody bother me for 4 hours. I'm just going to think. So half of this, what we're talking about here, is knowing what not to give into, knowing what not to pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this all the time. Obviously, it's easier said than done, right? With the day of social, and everybody around you, open office spaces, COVID, checking the CDC website, what's going on? There are so many distractions, so many. But again, understanding what you're supposed to do, your life's purpose, figuring that out, understanding exactly that it is just, like you said, can be over tomorrow, should keep you focused, should make sure, you should make sure that you understand exactly what it is that you're looking to accomplish in order for you to avoid or not allow the distractions to distract you. You gotta go in with purpose. Robert, I want to jump to something that I've been preaching for a while, and ever since I read Law Number 13, appeal to people's self-interest. It sparked ideas in my head, right? And we created, and none of the guys at the company know this, but we created a page on our website where we invite all these people that are good at what they do to share their information. So from the volume of traffic we create on our websites, these people that don't have the same type of technological skills that we have can benefit. So we call them this I Trust Them page. And I've based that I Trust Them page from Law Number 13. Again, appeal to people's self-interest. My entire coaching style, actually, because I consider myself the coach to our guys, is based on this specific law. When we're asking for anything, uncover something that benefits them, you say. Emphasize it out of all proportion. They will respond enthusiastically when they see something to be gained for themselves. This is one of my biggest struggles at the company, is to get my guys to understand that they have to give and not expect anything in return. They have to appeal to people's self-interest. If you don't mind unpacking a little bit of that specific law and why you feel so strongly about giving more of yourself than expecting anything in return.
Well, I like to dig below the surface and get at the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is whether you're looking inward or you're looking outward. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, most people are continually looking inward. And what I mean by that is we're focused inevitably on our own insecurities. Mm-hmm. Do people like us? Do people want us? You know, am I a good person? Are they respecting me? Am I getting recognition? And when you fall into that rabbit hole, it's very hard to get out. And it means you're not focusing on the other people. And you'll get in a situation where you think you deserve things. You think you're entitled to get things from people when you haven't put in the effort because you're so focused on your needs. Mm-hmm. You need to reverse that lens. You need to train yourself to be completely outer directed, to look at that other person as an individual with their own needs and their own problems, right? That is the key to this particular law. You know, we live in a really competitive, harsh world where it's not easy to get ahead. And everybody is kind of frustrated, particularly now. And so if you're one of those people that comes into a situation and you're offering them something that's going to make their life easier, something that's going to give them a little more power and control over their circumstances, you're offering them more money, more opportunity, their eyes are going to light up. I go, wow, nobody ever does that for me. Everybody's trying to take from me, and you're actually trying to give me something. And it could be something small. It could be just something as a matter of respect and personalized attention, you know? Because think in your own life now, how often you get personalized attention? Very, very rarely. Hopefully your spouse or your intimate partner or your children are giving it to you, but often they're not, right? You go into a shop, you wherever, no one's paying you any attention. They're not thinking of who you are, your colleagues, your boss. So the moment somebody does the opposite and looks you in the eye and gives you a sense that they're inside your world, they know what you need, they're going to save you time. And you know, that is the most important thing in life, is saving other people time, because none of us have enough time. We might have enough money, but we're always never really having enough time. If you're going to make things easier for people, if you're going to give them more time, if you're not going to take from them, you're going to have them eating out of your hand, right? And the worst thing you want to do is tell people, well, I did a favor for you before, so now I deserve getting the same thing back, because nobody likes to feel like they're beholden to you. Nobody likes to feel like they're obligated, right? Because that's impinging on their freedom. That is the worst thing you can do. The best thing you can do is find out what they need and somehow supply it. And you'll have the world at your hands if you can do that.
But it's the struggle is, and this is one thing I'm struggling with to convince everyone that all they need to do is give, because everybody's in the thought process or in the mindset that, oh, they want something from me. That's why he's giving this to me. Right. This is why she's putting me in this network of her people. It's because she's eventually going to come back and ask me to do something for her. That's the society, and that's the world we've created, right? But one thing that I try to encourage everyone to understand is that just because it's like that out there doesn't need to be what it's like in here, right? It's all inside out rather than outside in, and you talk about that a lot, which I think that everybody should really understand, should truly understand, and you do a magnificent job again explaining that in the Daily Laws. I want to talk about our profession a little bit with you, and I know that you're a writer, but I feel like a lot of the things that you talk about really resonate with a lot of our professionals here, the real estate professionals here. And we're in an industry right now. Real estate is changing more than any other industry. And the Department of Justice is coming after the industry, talking about the way you charge, the commissions that you charge, what you're not allowed to do, et cetera, et cetera. And one thing that I've stood very firm on is making sure that the value that we offer is never compromised. And you put it brilliantly in Law 34. You say, be royal in your fashion. By acting regally and confident of your powers, you make yourself seem destined to wear a crown. We are constantly being asked to reduce the commissions that we charge. And I'm constantly struggling to get my guys to understand that they are worthy of a crown if they act regal, right? And the fact that we're just because we're asked doesn't mean we need to give into it. So if you don't mind unpacking that a little bit and giving us your thoughts in how to handle our industry based on Law number 34.
Well, you mean, what are the pressures that you're dealing with now? You mean it comes from the government? They're trying to get you to reduce your commissions?
Well, the government is trying to reduce our commissions, but it's a daily struggle where homeowners, home buyers, home sellers want a discount. And one thing that they don't realize is a discount in fees, discount in commissions means a discount in services and not getting the most amount for their properties, for their homes. And me convincing our agents that in order to provide the proper service, they need to charge the correct fee because they need to give the most amount of value to their client.
Well, that's a very difficult thing, very difficult tightrope that you're walking now, particularly nowadays, where you have all of these websites that are cutting out the middleman and getting people to sell their homes on the internet, for basically very low commission. So I feel your pain. I see the predicament that you're in. But if you make it clear to people that they're going to get something from you that they can't get from all those other websites, whatever they're called, I can't remember their names. If you make it very clear and you appeal to their self-interest, that they're going to get this, this, and this, and this out of you, and it's not bullshitting, it's real. You're going to give them these services that are going to make life easier for them. And then, really what we're talking about is the difference between, excuse me, I'm not sure because I'm not in the business, between like $10,000, $20,000, right? If you're buying a home, and homes nowadays in Los Angeles, at least, you're not going to buy anything practically under 800, 900,000 that's worth anything.
Correct.
If you've got that kind of money, why should you be worried about, well, of course, I can't explain that psychology, but if you make it clear to people for that $10,000, you're saving them time, you're saving them pain, you're making them life easier. And if the salesperson feels that and feels confident that they're offering, that they're not trying to pull the wool over their eyes, that they're not just selling something that's not real, then you enter the situation full of confidence. And then you don't have to be nickel and dimed. So it's clear to the potential client that this is the things that you're not going to get on the internet. You're going to get personalized attention. You're going to be able to call me whenever you want. You're going to be able to get me to do the kinds of things that, we know how frustrating it is to deal with things on the internet or phone trees where we can never contact people, and how we get the continual runaround. You can't contact anyone at Amazon. You can't contact anyone at Apple. Try trying to reach somebody at Facebook. Forget about it. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're so unimportant, right?
Yeah.
And if everything becomes like that, if we cut out the middleman and everything, then no one will ever get any kind of detailed, important attention, and mistakes are made, right? So you buy a car on the internet, cutting out the middleman, and then you get this crappy car with all of these problems. Who are you going to turn to now? There's nobody to call. There's nobody to deal with. You're offering something that is a rare commodity in the world, a human being on the other end who's going to listen to you, who's going to make your life easier, who's going to make it painless for you. Is that worth $10,000? If it's not worth $10,000, then I don't necessarily want you as a client, but you don't say
and I always tell guys, just like Quicken or LegalZoom or H&R Block didn't put the accounting firms or the attorneys out of business, on these online companies aren't going to. But law number 34, guys, if you guys are struggling with understanding your value, if you don't understand what it is that you offer, reread law number 34. It's one of the best chapters in the book. Robert, I've got something that I'm confused about, right? And I wanted to ask you this last time. And I don't want to say these laws are contradictory, but I'm confused, okay? Because I struggle with leading by example, right? I struggle with getting people, my guys, to understand that it's all about discipline and consistency, right? And I want to make sure that I'm in front of their face each and every single day. God knows and people on this call and everybody that's going to watch this later, they get it from me at least twice, 3 times a day, right? And I've read and I've heard you talk a lot about lead from the front, right? And lead by example. But I also have an issue. But I also have read use absence to increase respect and honor. So I'm confused, and I'd like for you to tell me the difference, right? Because any single one of my guys, and all they will say is, I am so sick and tired of getting Harout's emails every single day. I'm the guy that wakes up very early in the morning. The first thing that I do is I'm emailing my guys. Get up, get going, do whatever needs to be done. I'm in their face constantly. And so the reason I do that is because I want them to do the same exact thing in their own business. I've created my fans and I want them to create their fans. Right. You talked about 80%. Yes, even Bloss says, agreed, too many emails. Absolutely. But I'm struggling with understanding the consistency and leading from the front, and then comparing that to be absent so you can get respect and honor.
Well, as a leader, you're projecting a particular image, right? You're not necessarily showing people exactly who you are. You're kind of creating this image. And we have an image in our culture of what a leader is like. They are somebody, male or female, that has a particular vision. They have a particular mission. They have a particular purpose. They have a particular mission. They have a particular vision. And they have a particular mission. And they have a particular purpose. And they have a particular mission. 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 And they have a particu of where the company is going, right? They have a sense of where we're going to be in a year, in 2 years, right? They lead by the front. They lead by example. They are strong. When things get stressful, they don't panic and they're not complaining and blaming other people and finding scapegoats. They take responsibility. That kind of leader gets respect. And when you get respect, that is the number one thing that you want from any as a leader, right? Because if people start not respecting you, you're in a world of trouble. Things are not going to work out for you in the months ahead and years ahead. Now, if you're so much in their face, right? If you're there 4 or 5 times a day, phone calls, emails, etc., it's human nature to feel A, a little bit irritated, and B, doesn't this guy have other things to do? Isn't Harout the leader of our company? Shouldn't he be thinking about bigger things than my small little task? Slowly, their levels of respect might drop as a leader. He's too micromanaging me. So what Harout needs to do every now and then is to find a lieutenant. This was the brilliance in warfare. In people like Marshall in the Department of Defense in World War II, you find a second in command who does your dirty work. And he or she is the one that sends more of these emails. I don't mean to be telling you how to do your business. I'm sorry.
No, please. I told you this is a therapy session in front of 200 people.
All right. So if, maybe every other day you send an email to kind of inspire people. And then when people get an email from you, go, wow, Harout emailed me, as opposed to, damn, Harout's emailing me again. They're excited about it. But you got to parse it out. If it's too often, then I think you lose a little bit of respect. Like, shouldn't he be focusing on the big issues, like where the company is going? Why is he worrying about my little job here? So, the master of this was Napoleon Bonaparte, because Napoleon Bonaparte led from the front. And I mean that literally. When the army went into battle, he was in the front. He was going to take the bullets. He could die on the battlefield, right? On the other hand, he knew that if he was too familiar with his soldiers, if they saw him every day, if they saw him dressed not in a regal fashion, if they saw him getting all emotional and angry, they would lose respect. So he knew that he had to withdraw at times. And he had to choose lieutenants. He was a master at getting field commanders to do his dirty work for him, to fire people. But every now and then, he had to symbolically get involved and show people he was still in command. And he had to do the dirty work and do the firing and yell at people, but not too often. So if you're yelling at people, if you're in their face all the time, if you're bothering them, that kind of slowly lowers their levels of respect, right? So, but if every month or 2 months, you kind of get angry, if every couple of days you send an email directing them, that's like, wow, that's powerful. That has impact, as opposed to constantly hitting people every day. It loses its impact slowly over time. I'm sorry, Harout. I don't mean to.
Absolutely, this is exactly what I was looking for. So guys, you heard it from Robert and I first. No more 5 a.m. videos or emails. You will not. So maybe 3-4 times a day, a month, you will receive an email from me with directions. So no more daily emails. So good news for all of you guys. Robert, and one of the things that I struggle with, and I know that you're a big believer of mentors, and I personally haven't, believe it or not, I haven't chosen my mentor yet. I haven't had a mentor. I believe that what the books that I read and the people that I study are my mentors. So I have many mentors in terms of literature and books and so on and so forth. Who would you say has been your mentor, and why so much about Baltasar Graciani? Would you mind telling us a little bit about him, and in particular, who you look up to and who you consider a mentor?
Well, to take the last question first, Gracian, I discovered him in the early 80s. I was living in Paris at the time. I had a job working in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of the hotel had a book of his in French. I read it and I go, wow, this is amazing. This is fantastic. And throughout my young life, I kept that book with me. I now have it in English. And I thought this was really powerful because he's so smart, he's so wise, but he explains things in a very down-to-earth, practical way. He's kind of like Machiavelli. He's got a very
Mm-hmm.
Machiavellian kind of spirit, but he's a little bit more practical than Machiavelli, if you can say that. He kind of
Mm-hmm.
is dealing with everyday issues. So a lot of the laws of power were inspired by Gracian, like never outshine the master,
Mm-hmm.
or make your accomplishments seem effortless, etc. These are ideas that come directly from Gracian. He was an amazing 17th century Spanish writer, very powerful. And, I just think I think I played a role in making him kind of popular in the United
Yeah.
States.
Yeah,
So
you
I feel very
absolutely have.
proud of that. As far as my own mentors, I've had series of mentors. Beginning in high school, I had an English teacher who basically taught me how to write. I had turned in essays that I thought were absolutely brilliant. I thought I was the greatest genius on the planet, and I'm 15 years old. And he
Mm-hmm.
sends it back with a C minus or a D. Well, what? What's going on here? I thought it was brilliant. He goes, Robert, when you write, you have to think of your audience. You can't think of your own, of kind of expressing yourself, of thinking that you have an ego and being brilliant. You have to think of your idea in your message and put that ahead of anything else and begin with a solid theme and then develop everything from that. That changed the course of my life. And then I had a series of other mentors. When I worked in that hotel in Paris, that man I mentioned, who was the owner of the hotel, he was a mentor for me very much. Henri Le Goubin. He taught me all sorts of, brought my attention to a lot of books I'd never read before. But the major mentor in my life was a man named Joost Elfers. He is the
Okay.
producer of my first three books, a packager. I met him in 1995 in Italy when I was working on a job there. And I was at a very depressed moment in my life. I was 36 years old. I hadn't figured out what I was meant to do in life. I had like 60 different jobs. I
I've heard
tried
that.
every kind of writing, and I was kind of very depressed. And I was at this job, and I met this man, Joost Elfers. And he's Dutch, very smart, very interesting man. And one day we're walking in Venice, Italy, and he asks me if I have any idea for a book. And it was the turning point in my whole life. It was a beautiful sunny day. We're walking along the quays of Venice. And I improvised an idea that will turn eventually into the 48 Laws of Power. But where he turned into a mentor was he got very excited. He thought this idea was fantastic. I could sell it. He said, Robert, I will pay you to live for a year. I will send you a check every month you can live comfortably to write half this book, and then we will sell it. And nobody had ever done that. Nobody had ever been that generous to me. Nobody had ever really believed in anything like that. So him believing in me and him not just saying that, but actually putting money behind it was the greatest thing that ever happened. Because if I hadn't met him, and it's a slender thread that I met him there, I wouldn't be here talking to you today, Harout. So he was probably the most important mentor in my life.
That's
That and
incredible.
my father. My
That
father was a salesman his whole life. He worked at one company for 50 years. He was a salesman. And he was really good with people. You would have loved him at John Hart because he was a brilliant salesman. He knew how to appeal to his customers, to his clients. Back in those days, he would take them out drinking, because that was the main way you would kind of get people to lower their defenses. I learned a lot from my father. So those would be my main mentors in life.
I love the fact that you mentioned and the fact that he put you up for a year, and I remember reading something that said that even mentioned that you had to write half the book first to turn it into your publisher, and then he'd get paid, or you'd be able to pay him back. But I love the fact that you said it was a chance encounter, right? Because that's one thing that people really miss is those opportunities, because they're not thinking of them as opportunities, and they miss these life-changing meetings or opportunities. And it's incredible. And I love that you mentioned that. Robert, I know we only have 90 minutes and our time is almost up. So would you mind, because I've got a lot of questions still left, but would you mind
if
I want to take a couple of questions or a few questions from the audience. Selvi she's one of our own. She's been with the company for many, many, many years. She's amazing. She asks you, how can someone detach themselves when you take things so personally, right? And Selvi, I know where you're coming from, because I know Selvi very well. When it comes to people in our life, especially, right? And if somebody that we love, we care, we cherish, she's saying, how do we detach from that when we value so much of this person's opinion?
Okay. All right. Well, I'll attack it in as logical a fashion as I can, because I'm a practical person and I want to help you. Mm-hmm. The first thing is you have to understand the value of not taking things personally and the problem of taking everything personally gets you into. So you have to have a moment of reckoning. You have to sit down and go, this isn't working for me. My taking everything personally is getting me into trouble. It's causing drama. It's draining me of emotions. It's making me say stupid things every now and then. It's making me do things that waste my time. I want to change this. If you can't come to that moment, none of what I say from now on will work. So first have that moment of reckoning. I need to change it. The second thing you need to realize is that you can't suddenly become a different person. Tomorrow, you're not going to suddenly wake up and not take things personally. It's impossible. You have to take small baby steps. So you say something like this: tomorrow, I'm going to try one thing, Robert. In dealing with my husband or whomever it is in my life, whom I'm always taking everything so personally, I'm going to try one exercise tomorrow where we're in a conversation and I feel myself getting emotional and I feel myself kind of losing a little bit of control. I'm going to try to take a step back and go, Robert says, don't do that. Let's try and step back and not react. And then later in the day, several hours later, go back and analyze what it was that was triggering your emotions, what was making you take things personally. If you can do that one time tomorrow, that's enough. Don't try it again. We want to build on little things. Then a few days later, choose the 6 people that give you that cause the most problems in this. Maybe it's Harout. Maybe it's your husband. Maybe it's your children. Maybe it's your friends. Choose the 6 top people that do that to you and say, I'm going to practice this with each one of them one time during the couple weeks to come, right? So I'm in a meeting
I can assure you it's not Harout. I can assure you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to believe. Are you joking?
No, I'm not joking. I would never do that, sir.
Okay. All right. So just build on little steps. So every day with these 6 people who you never can control your emotions with, you're going to try to step back for a minute and go, I'm not going to get emotional. What is it that's causing me? I'm going to sit back and look at them objectively. And I'm not going to get caught up in all the turmoil that they're creating. And later on, I'm going to analyze what happened. I'm going to write it down in a journal. If you can make that a habit slowly every day, day by day, you're not going to become a different person, right? You're going to still be someone who gets emotional. And emotions aren't a bad thing. Emotions are very positive. I don't want to change your source of power. I just want to give you a little bit more control over your emotions so you're not continually reacting to people. So have small goals and build on those small goals into something larger and larger. Excuse me.
So we have another question by Lizette Gomez, and it was kind of with a question that I still have to ask you. because we as professionals, we are constantly living in fear. Are we going to miss out on this deal? If I charge this commission, are they going to go with someone else? If I don't take advantage of this opportunity, am I going to miss out on a much larger opportunity? Lizette Gomez asks, what is Robert's best advice to fight off fears?
Well, okay, there are two things to fight off fears. First of all, you're prepared. So you do your homework. You enter a negotiating situation if that's what it is. You know what you want. You understand your client. You've prepared. You've done your homework. You've done your research. So if they suddenly come at you and you kind of mapped out what you're going to say and the different ways that they might respond to you, so you're prepared so they don't surprise you, right? And so in the moment, if something comes up, that if you hadn't prepared, you'd be going, well, I don't know what to say. You get all flustered. You're ready and you're prepared. But the other thing is to have a complete sense of your long-term goals. You have to know what matters, right? So you can't freak out over every single client, over every, because they're going to be moments of rejection, right? I mean, think of actors in Hollywood. To get to the top, they're dealing with 99 rejections and one person saying, okay, you get the part, right? They have to deal with it. They have to get a tough skin. So don't get so caught up in each rejection and don't think that the world depends on this one sale, right? So we talked about act like a king to be treated like one. You know that you're royal. You know that you're good at your job. You know that Harout has faith in you, that you're good at it. So your life doesn't depend on this one sale. It gives you a kind of calmness, gives you a kind of patience. And believe me, if you enter a situation with a client and they smell on you insecurity and they smell on you fear, and we humans are very good at detecting these nonverbal expressions, it changes the negotiation. Puts them in more power than you have, right? It gives them a sense that they can maneuver you. But if you enter with confidence, like, I don't need to make this sale. I've got 10 other clients I can replace you with. That feeling that you can walk away gives you power. I remember when I did the book with 50 Cent, that was what he told me. You know, I have the power to walk away, and the power to walk away puts everything on my terms, basically. I'm not afraid if this deal doesn't fall through because I know there are 5 other deals waiting for me. Of course, he's 50 Cent and he can afford to have that kind of attitude. I understand. But it's a very powerful attitude that not everything depends on that one particular sale. Life will go on. There'll be more clients. Have confidence in yourself and don't put everything into this one particular basket.
I mean, it's incredible how simple what you said was or is, yet people just don't get it. Being prepared is one of the most important lessons that we can give, I can give, you can give, all of us can give, but very, very few actually understand it or apply it, right? And this is one thing that it's the exact same message that I try to give everyone each and every single day is that and I don't want people to listen to half of your message. I want people to listen to the entire message, because some people be like, oh, Robert said I could just walk away if I don't like a client. No, Robert didn't say that, ladies and gentlemen. What Robert said was, if you are prepared and if you know that you've got 75,000 other people waiting in line just to talk to you, then you're able to pick and choose exactly who it is that you'd like to work with or associate with or have a drink with. But if you're counting on that one person, if your entire existence or your paycheck or your family's next meal is dependent on that one person, then you are going to have to, and you're going to lose your power, like you said, but you're going to have to do exactly what that person is looking for you to do. And that's one thing that we do not want. Robert, I am going to end on a high note, because that was, if there's one takeaway from everything we've talked about today, is just that, is that in order for you to be able to come out of anything with success and come out of anything with power, it's that you have to go in prepared. and our guys constantly are struggling with balance. Eric, I know you mentioned and you asked the question that I never got to, but how do you balance, right? The answer is, and again, I don't want to take too much time, but the answer is, and Robert says it many times in his books, is that there is no such thing as balance. It's all about going in prepared and making sure that you pick 3 or 4 things that you just want to focus on. So Robert, I just can't get enough of you, man. You're the sexiest man alive in my book.
Oh God.
Everyone,
tell that to my wife, please.
Yeah, I will. Right. Look, everyone, this book is incredible. I didn't have. I mean, it took me. I couldn't put it down. I was every night. I couldn't. Every morning, I woke up. I read it every. But they should read it daily, right? And John Hart's going to give away this book to every single person. We want to buy hundreds of books, and we'd like to give it to every single person that is on this session today. Go to elevatebyjohnhart.com. Again, elevatebyjohnhart.com. Put in your name, put in your phone number, and put in your Zoom ID, and you can come pick up one of these books at any of our 13 locations in LA and Vegas. So, Robert, man, oh man, this was awesome. I wish nothing more than we can do this a lot more often, because it's kind of, like I said, therapy for me, and I get free consultation, business consultation with you. I know you charge thousands of dollars an hour.
Well, you're selling a lot of my copies of books, so it is a win-win. You're okay. Appealing to my self-interest as well, which is good. Yeah. And maybe next time we can do it in person, because I enjoyed the La Cañada event a lot.
Yeah. And next time, I'm hoping that the next time we sit down, we'll do it in person and in front of a large audience, just like last time. Until then, good sir, Happy New Year. I wish you nothing but health. I want you around for a very long time, not forever.
Oh, thank you.
But screw those guys. Screw those guys up north. We don't want to live forever. We just want to live as much as we can and do our part in this very, very small world. All right, sir. Thank you again.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone. And I wish the same thing for lots of success and power and everything for you in 2022.